I call the honourable member David Bennett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Just following on from that speech from Nick Smith, I think we need to look at what ACC is there for, and it's actually there for people in need. That can happen to anybody in any time of their life, that something can go wrong, there can be an accident, and you need that support from the government to be there in that time. And nobody would wish that on any person, that they had to go into a situation where they needed ACC's support. And ACC is a flagship for the New Zealand economy and for our government over many years of how we deal with these issues. And we get the, who wrote this speech. That's a typical line from New Zealand First. We always get that. That's Winston's interruption line, isn't it? But we're looking forward to some better lines as we go through the speech. But ACC is there for a genuine purpose. It's to deal with a genuine issue that can happen to anybody. And when we came into government, there was a world recession. And what was there in the world recession? There was a loss on a lot of share markets around the world. And what does ACC invest a lot of its funds in? Share markets around the world. And the past Minister, Mr Smith, was quite right in detailing those figures of the losses, because they reflected two major things. One was that the world share markets had declined. The US market, for example, was nearly half its value from its peak a year before that. That value loss was directly going through into the ACC books, and there was a major loss that we encountered in ACC when we took over that institution. And nobody could have predicted how that would have returned or what would have happened, but we need to get it back on track. The second thing that was there was that under the previous administrations, this ACC had changed from its fundamental purpose. The Woodhouse principles were still enshrined, but they had been developed to take into account political payments for vestiges which the previous government had found in its political mandate. And it went out there and offered a lot of services that were beyond the original scheme of ACC. So we had two things that we encountered when we took over ACC. It had losses from its share investments, and it was spending things that were outside the original principles of what ACC was set up for. So we had to change those and get them right. And that was important. And it was very important when you sat in this House and you sat in the Select Committee and you looked at ACC, the National and Labour parties had agreement. The only party that was here that wasn't in agreement necessarily was the Green Party, and that was that everybody saw the need to get ACC fully funded so that it could survive by itself in the future. And that deadline was approaching very quickly of 2017. And if we hadn't made those changes, then that possibility of a self-funding approach to ACC could have been missed. And the Greens didn't want to do that. The Greens didn't want to have a self-funding ACC. They wanted an ACC where you just tax people and pay for it over time, and they didn't care about the losses that were growing. They just saw it as something in the future. The New Zealand First Party, bless their soul, wasn't even here at that time. Don't know why, but they tell us why. I think it was under an election, wasn't it? and so they didn't even have a voice at the table, let alone being able to say what they thought. But the Labour Party and the National Party both agreed that we could see the future for ACC, but it was a future where we had to see it funded in a way that was good.
Point of order. Order.
Sorry for the
Honourable Chairman Mallard.
I think there has been a Speaker's ruling in the past, it might have been before the last election, about the inappropriateness of members moving around the chamber to follow the camera. I think it was in relation to Heke Parata. I note that Maggie Barry is doing that today.
No. That's a frivolous interjection, and it can lead to disorder, and the member knows it. He's a most experienced Member of Parliament and a stickler for standing orders. I call the Honourable David Bennett.
Well, that member over there, the only way the cameras are going to go on that member is if he makes a point of order. When we've got lovely members here, the cameras follow our members because they are much more lovely than what we have over there. They have to fall off a bike or do something like that to get the camera on them. But the Labor Party, Trevor Mallard did not want to hear the words, they agreed with National on the future of ACC. That's why he brought that point of order up. He knew that they agreed with us. And they're very quiet now. They're very quiet because they know in their hearts that they wanted the same things. They saw the future of ACC because when we go back to it, ACC is there for the benefit of New Zealanders, and that's what we are delivering with a strong ACC coming.
I call the